Hey everyone, and welcome back to NintendoFuse for GameChat. Today we're going to be talking all about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. My name is Steve, and of course I am joined by Barry. Hey Barry, how's it going?
Hey Steve, what a pleasure to be here. Hello everybody.
We got this early access review codes from Ubisoft, so thank you so much Ubisoft for allowing us to play the game early and give you guys a review. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is an action adventure platformer game with a Metroidvania structure set in a mythological Persian world. This is a disordered world as you play as Sargon, a young, gifted Persian warrior with unique abilities and on an epic quest to save Prince Ghassan, heir of the Persian throne, in this Mount Kaf, once wondrous place, now cursed with hostile time stuff going on, and you're not really sure what's going on in this whole place. You're trying to chase down the people that have kidnapped the prince, but all along you're finding all these different people that you quickly realize that something's different about this. Some people are aging differently, and some people are already dead, and you're like, what is going on? And try to basically figure out what's going on, save the prince, and in turn save Persia, I guess, and the whole scheme of things. So really fun game so far. But Barry, I want to toss it over to you first and give your kind of some first impressions here.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Prince of Persia series. While the earlier games didn't do it for me, it was really Sands of Time that many people really got into the series. And seeing a new Prince of Persia game, in 2023 was like, wow, okay, cool. It's gonna be cool. And obviously came out to in 2024. But it was like, wow, they didn't forget about the series. I thought Assassin's Creed killed the series, but they did something new. They did Metroidvania, and I think they hit it out of the park, in my opinion. Like this exceeded all my expectations. This is a Metroidvania to a T. This is what you would think of when you think of Symphony of Night and Super Metroid, but mixed with the elements of Prince of Persia. So you've got the acrobatic platforming, you've got time elements. The time elements are really cool, and some of the environments are frozen in time, and just sometimes you have to rewind times to build things back up, and a lot of other cool things that I'm not going to spoil. But I was very impressed, and I will say, as a disclaimer, this is to the credit of Ubisoft, actually. Their accessibility options are fantastic. They are absolutely fantastic in this game. What I mean by that is, for those that know, I usually play games on the easiest difficulty to enjoy the story. I'm just a story gamer. This game lets you do that, but it also lets you customize exactly how much damage enemies do, how much health they have. It goes above and beyond. And then there's other things allows you to show all the icons on the map, like where things, where you go, and or you cannot have any of it and just go blind. It lets you play the way you want. And there are a lot of difficult platforming sections in this game. Some very, very difficult for a lot of the hidden stuff. But for the ones that are mandatory, there's an option that you can go in and turn on a portal, so you can actually skip anyone that's required for main progression, so you're not hindered by it, which I think is really cool, because you don't have to use it. Even if you have it turned on, you don't have to use it. And I found myself going through the first time, normally. A lot of times there's hidden things there as well, but then if I had to backtrack through a room, and it's like, I don't want to backtrack through this difficult thing, I just use the portal for a quick backtrack, because backtracking in Metroidvania is common, but it's also probably the least fun part of a Metroidvania, at least for me. So I loved that it allowed me to bypass those. And if you're not as skilled in a game like this, it allows you to continue playing and see the story, because some of the platforming segments had me sweating. They get really difficult later on, and I appreciated that. It was fun. By the time I was done, I'm like, that was cool. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a superstar. And this game does a good job of ramping up that difficulty. and making sure the hardest platforming is for optional stuff that you don't need. So I thought they did a phenomenal job unpacking, because there's a lot to this game. But Steve, let's go back to you. What about you? What are your thoughts initially?
Yeah, I'm right with you. Like on that, I was surprised in how much I enjoyed this game. I knew I was going to enjoy it, but I really enjoy this game. However, in the beginning, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I was almost swayed the opposite way in the very beginning, because I think while you jump right into the action at the very beginning, which is exciting, you also jump into a lot of storytelling and all this stuff, which I guess at the beginning it's needed, but it also slows things down, and it kind of feels a little bit jarring when you're like action, 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 and oh, we got to do some dialogue for a while. Action, action, action. Oh, now we're gonna watch a cutscene. Sometimes they're cutscenes, sometimes they're dialogue back and forth. The voice acting is fantastic, but yeah, it was kind of back and forth and kind of felt really slow. And in the beginning of the game, I thought, if this is how the entire game is going to go, I'm probably not going to like this. If I'm going, and then I got to stop and I got to do some story that I'm kind of like only halfway interested in. But then finally, you break through that, and it's just action, go, and you're going to have a blast the rest of the game. So they do put a lot of it up front. And I think if you just know that going into it, you'll be fine. But I wasn't sure what to expect, and I was like, if this is going to be the entire game, it's going to slow down my excitement, and I'm not going to enjoy it. But thankfully, that was the beginning, and then I was able to just off and running and enjoying it a lot. There are a lot of places where I haven't beat the game. I know Barry has. I totally got distracted a lot during this game. There's so many side quests that you just stumble upon or whatever. And so I put several hours into it, and I'm not nearly as far as I should be because I kept getting distracted by side quests or getting lost at different times. I did turn on different hints and the maps to try to progress a little faster for the sake of this review, but there were still times where I wasn't exactly sure where I was supposed to go next. And so trying to backtrack and all the cool Metroidvania stuff. I think one of the fun things about this game is sometimes that's a huge hassle and it's a pain in my butt when I have to backtrack. I was not as annoyed in this game about backtracking because I think they did it well. I think you progress fast through different parts. I think I wish there was a little bit more fast travel options, but I think there's enough to make it not annoying as you're backtracking through different parts and everything like that. So I think it's just been a really good experience. Like you said, the platforming is phenomenal in this game, which doesn't surprise me for a Prince of Persia game, but also if they're putting a lot of effort into making this a good Metroidvania game too, you'd think maybe that might be sacrificed over there, and it's not. They've done a really good job of upholding both aspects of that, both genres, I guess, in terms of platforming and Metroidvania. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it a lot so far.
Yeah, I agree. Platforming is top notch. The puzzles are good, except I will say, you talk about the fast travel. So there is a fast travel system. Um, you have to go to a fast travel point. You have to unlock it before you can use it naturally. But in order to fast travel, you have to be at another fast travel point. Um, I kind of wish there was an option to make it so you could fast travel to any of the points from anywhere. I think that would speed things up. So a lot of times I spend a lot of time backtracking to a fast travel point just to go somewhere else, as opposed to just going there. Um, it's not a negative. I just kind of personally would like to see that be an option for those that say, "Oh, that's part of the fun." Like, you can still do that, just like it be an option. Some of the fast travel points are few and far between. Like, some areas have more than others, but overall, I thought they were really well done. The puzzles in the game are great, except there is one area where the puzzles they make you do are part of the main story, and are ridiculously difficult. Not difficult in the sense of I don't know what to do. Ridiculous because they're timed. They are time needed. Um, and to not so much spoil it because there's more of these, but it's a puzzle that involves you creating images of yourself in the sense of you hit a switch and you now have three options to do something. So there's a switch on the left wall and a switch on the right wall, and they both need to be pushed down. So you create a version that go on the left wall and a version on the right wall, and then you as the third version can run through. I don't know if you've gotten to this part yet, Steve. I don't think you have.
Not yet, but I totally understand where I've progressed enough where I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, so that's not a big deal, but there's four of these you have to do, and they're timed because it's not just create an image, I'm going to do this. You have 10 seconds. And in that 10 seconds, you have to get somewhere that will take you, if you do it perfectly, 9.5 seconds, maybe 9.8 seconds.
Yeah.
So there were times where I was just over and over and over, just it was like speed running, just trying to beat my time by milliseconds to get, and when you finally get to that switch, you still have to get your last version of yourself through the door, and you have literally a half a second for the door to open and you to get in before it resets. And I'm like, oh my god! And one of them, I was so frustrated trying to do the last one of the last one of these you have to do. There is a bonus one that I did do for items, and that one was kind of crazy. And the thought, by the way, for completing these, for most of them, are really cool. Like they really make you use your brain and figure this out. One of them is definitely like if it had an extra second on the clock, it would be a lot more fun. But I was trying to figure out one of them, and my wife and I were looking at it. We're like, how do we do this? And it involves a room, and you have to have one character hit a switch, and the door comes down, so that you can get another character up there. And I was like, well, is there a way to do it without that? Because when the gate comes down, a platform comes out, and I'm like, well, I need the gate up and the platform out. Is there a way to do that? I'm trying to figure this out, and I went to just go test. I wasn't using the mechanic, and I jumped down there just to see what was there, and I somehow got into the room. Like I glitched through the wall into the room, and now I'm stuck in the room. There's no way out because there's no way I can make a copy. And I'm like frustrated. I'm going like crazy. Like, what the heck? Like I was locked. I was literally glitched, locked into the room.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have no choice but to reset. So I had to reset. You have to go into the options, the main menu, and it tells you the last time you saved was 47 minutes ago. And I'm looking at the screen, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Because the saves, you can't manually save this game.
Yeah.
It will auto save at select points, otherwise it saves only when you get to a tree. And it had been 47 minutes of exploring since I got to the tree. Now it wasn't really 47 minutes of exploring. To be fair, it was about 15 to 20 minutes of exploring, and the rest of the time was working on these puzzles.
Sure.
Now keep in mind that time puzzle where I said you have 10 seconds and you have you have to get there in like 9.5, 9.8 seconds was one of the puzzles I did that I had to do a second time because I had to reset and go through and get back to this area. And of course, once I got there and after I did that puzzle, I went and saved. I went, I'm going to go to a tree and save before I go to that glitched puzzle. I only had it happen once. But I do want to point it out in the review that it did happen to me. So, as a negative, I will say you should be able to and understand why they do it. But being that it's portable, especially on the Switch, let you save at any time, even if it's a quick save. A lot of games do like the quick save where it doesn't really, it's once you reload it, the save is gone kind of deal. At least something. But
Yeah.
this is an experience. It didn't dampen the whole thing. I still love the game. But I do want to bring it up that this did occur to me as a warning for anyone listening. Make sure you save, and before you get to a puzzle, especially when you get to this area, just in case, and you'll know it because you'll see what I mean. And this is on the fourth of these puzzles, so you have plenty of time to go save. It just happened. So
Yeah.
maybe it'll be patched. Maybe they'll bug fix it. But this is something that occurred to me.
Yeah, there is. Speaking of which, there is a day one patch that we want to make sure that you guys know. So I believe the game launches on January 18th, 2024. And so there's supposed to be a day one patch that includes some balancing of bosses and enemy fights, improved guided mode experience for better player experience and understanding. So even improving on the things that you talked about already, some UI polishes. updated audio mix, general bug fixes, and then some trophy stuff for Sony and Microsoft, and support of 120 FPS over on Xbox Series X.
But yeah, it was one of those weird occurrences. But
Yeah.
it did ever since then. I made sure doubly to save, and I wish more games, and I understand that's how Metroid did it. You know, you go to the save room, and that's part of the risk of going into it. That's fine, but make it an option. You don't have to. You could play the game where you have to go back to the save rooms. That's fine. Play the game your way. Options are always a good thing. But boy, if I had, I would have saved at least when I've gotten there, and I would have saved after beating every one of
Yeah.
those, and I would have saved myself a
Yeah.
lot of time. Trust
Yeah.
me.
I think it just takes one time. So there was one time I died, and the only time I've died in the game. Of course, like you, I've turned on the easy stuff to progress a little faster, and I lost a lot of time since the last time I'd saved. I was like, oh, didn't realize that was the thing. I'm going to be doing that from now on. And so now every time I pass a tree, or if I'm even close to one, I go there and fill up on health and supplies and save for sure. So I think it's cool. Like, I think as long as you know that that's the case, you play in that way.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool that they are still incorporating stuff like that to make the game challenging, but also not like too challenging. It could be more challenging if you want it to be, but I think there's a healthy level of challenge in this game where you're not going to be, even on the easy settings, you're not just going to be breezing right through this game. It's going to be a fun challenge, and I really enjoyed that. I think it was something that I didn't know I was going to experience, but it was a very, very happy surprise for sure. So there are different aspects in this game beyond just the basic Metroidvania and the different platforming and stuff like that. You do have these other abilities that you're going to unlock, amulets that you can equip, and all this different stuff. Barry, what do you think about all the other aspects of the game to make it more of this Prince of Persia experience?
Yeah, so I really liked that. There's multiple upgrades. There's, like you mentioned, abilities that you get throughout the game. They're part of the story, so they're traversal abilities such as dashing in the air and double jumps and stuff like that. The standard stuff you would get in Metroidvania, but there's some that are completely, at least in my opinion, unique. I haven't played a game that had them in this kind of way, this format. Then there's, like you mentioned, the amulets. So you get to equip amulets. There's a ton of different amulets, and at the start, I think you have 3 amulet slots, and then you can upgrade. I think I ended with 12, but I'm fairly certain there might have been 1 or 2 more that I could have gotten, and maybe not. I don't know, but each amulet takes 1 to 3 slots. So a weaker amulet will be 1 slot, a stronger, more powerful amulet will be 3 slots, and each of those can be upgraded twice. Well, most of them, I should say. Some of them are already like maxed, but they can be upgraded twice. The first time using the currency, there's like a gemstone currency. I forget exactly what it's called. That you get from just defeating enemies. You find in crystals. You find in treasure chests. You get for completing quests and doing tutorials. But then there's the next upgrade requires that and a coin, and these coins are hidden throughout the maps. They are bonus items. They are usually in bonus areas. And what's interesting, we were discussing a little bit before the recording, what I find interesting about the coins is they do something different than most games. Where in most games, if you get a collectible, you touch it, you collect it, boom. The coins, on the other hand, when you grab them, you don't collect them. You have to get back on solid ground, which sounds easy, and in some cases it is, but in many cases it's not, because you have to go through a gauntlet of platforming to get to the end of a dead end that has a coin, and then you have to get out. And these gauntlets are usually lined with spikes, so if you hit the spikes once, that's it. You fail the challenge. So these coins are valuable, and you really want to make you weigh what upgrades you want to do. By the end of the game, you should have plenty if you just scour everywhere. But it's nice that they really make you work for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Then you could also upgrade your weapons. So you have two primary weapons. You have your swords, your twin scimitars, and you have your bow that also turns into a chakram. And the bow and chakram upgrade together. And to upgrade those, you need the same currency, but instead of coins, you need these. They're kind of like almost look like dog tags. I forget exactly what they
Hmm.
are, like mithril kind of things. And there are fewer of these, but there's enough to fully upgrade. And each weapon can go up to level 4, and it takes 1 for the first upgrade, 2, 3, 4, and you can upgrade both of them. Um, Again, you could also choose not to if you don't want to do more damage. Again, you can create the difficulty, but it is a nice little upgrade that you can do. You can upgrade your arrow quiver is another thing you can upgrade, and then potions. So this game kind of uses what a lot of games have been doing with like Dark Souls type mentality, where instead of having consumable items, you have a set amount of potions, and then every time you go to a tree, aka a bonfire, and it saves, it resets your potions. So you could upgrade your potion capacity, and the potency of the potions is something else that you could upgrade. So there's a lot of ways that you can upgrade. Of course, hearts too, your
Yeah.
health. You can upgrade just like Zelda. There's pieces of heart, so to speak. 4 pieces make a full container, and then there's full containers. So you start the game, and by the end of it, you really do feel significantly more powerful. And the
Mhm.
progression level, I feel, is good. And because it lets you choose how you want to upgrade. What's nice is that the dog tag things only work for the weapons, so you don't have to worry about, well, I want to upgrade a weapon or do I upgrade an amulet, or you could really choose because the coins are for the amulets.
Mhm.
And I think potion upgrade and potency needs one as well, but it lets you really pick and choose how you want to do that. And
Yeah.
and and the way my amulet layout is probably different than Steve's. It's probably going to be different than yours, and maybe we
Mhm.
share one or two. There's so many different amulets that really you customize your gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so cool because maybe you don't want to you do want to scour everywhere to get those other those tags that you can upgrade your weapons super fast, but then you have the abilities of having the amulets upgraded, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm having more powerful attacks from my amulets, so I don't necessarily need to go and upgrade my weapon. Or maybe you're like, I need that amulet spot, so I need to upgrade my weapon so I can have that spot back for another amulet that I really want to equip. And so there's a lot of different customizations, like you said. I think it's also the combat is really fun. I think there's so many different ways that you can attack, and it's not just a button smashing game as you go through and you just beat them up and that's it. Like you can attack by tossing them in the air, throwing them to the ground, combining different attacks together, and then you have the ability to parry as well. And so if the game tells you if it's a yellow light that pops up, you're going to be able to parry that with a well-timed attack, or sometimes just other attacks as well. But if it's red, you cannot stop those attacks, and so you have to dodge it in some other way. So either sliding under their legs or jumping over the enemy or whatever, and then attacking from behind. So it does a really good job, I think, of making a what could be a very stale, simple 2D action experience very fresh and new and exciting. I had fun with those. And then you throw in the Athra charges as well. So you have this gauge of energy that you can build up, and you get to choose on like how you want to use those. So there's 4 different Athra charges that you can, or surges that you can equip, I think, or no, there's like 10. But you can equip different ones, and they're basically superpowers at the different times. So you can either unleash a huge attack that hits everybody around you, slides right into you with some really strong force, provides kind of a shield around you in different ways. So there's different Athra surges that you're also factoring in that can build up over time and all that stuff too. So it really makes for a fun 2D action experience.
Yeah, the surges are a really cool idea. So you start with 1 bar, and you could eventually get up to 3 bars. You could have 2 equipped at a time. I think 4 of the charges use only 1 bar, 3 of them use 2 bars, and 3 of them use 3 bars. and you unlock them as you play through. It's one of the things you can find, so you can really choose which ones you want. And to build the gauge, you attack. The more you attack, it builds the gauge, and of course there's amulets to help with that. However, when you take damage, the gauge will actually deplete, but there's an option you can turn that off completely, or how fast it depletes, you can make that up to you. So you can really customize that, depending on if you want to unleash these moves, or you want to be really well earned, like, oh man, I just got through that and didn't get hit, now I could use one of these attacks. So again, that customization. And there is one other type of collectible you could find that I didn't talk about: cosmetics.
Hmm.
There are cosmetic skins you can find, because it's an Ubisoft game, to change the appearance of your prince. These are my personal least favorite thing to do, because it doesn't do anything for you. It's literally just cosmetics. And
Just
there
a
was
look.
one challenge. There's a challenge in this game it took me probably about 15 minutes just to get it right, because it's one of those where even if you know what to do, sometimes you just screw up. And I finally did it. I was like, oh, good. What's my reward going to be? And it was a cosmetic. And I'm like,
I had
oh,
the
man.
same
Like,
thing too.
I was like, this could have been
Yeah.
so cool. And it's a
Yeah.
stupid cosmetic. But if
Uh-huh.
you like that, they're in the game.
It's true. Which brings me to this idea of taking these time snapshots as well, which I thought was a brilliant idea. I've not, maybe other games have done this, but I've not seen this in a Metroidvania game before, which really is a nice addition. So at any point in the game, you have a certain amount of snapshots that you can take, screenshots basically of the game. And so you just press down on the control pad and you can take a photo of what your screen looks like at that time. And then they put that on the map. And so if you get to a certain point where you're like, I want to remember this for whatever reason, maybe it's something that you can't achieve yet, or you can't get through, you want to come back to it. But the ability to have a photo attached to that is so helpful. And so there was one time where I had like a chest that I couldn't get to at the beginning of the game because I didn't have certain abilities. But then I knew as soon as I got that other ability, I'm heading back there, open that chest, find out what's in it. And it's some different pants.
Yep.
I'm like,
I know
ah,
exactly. That's the first chest they introduce you with the
yeah.
snapshot thing. Yep, I did the same thing. Oh yeah. Aw. No, the snapshot is brilliant. It is honestly brilliant. And you start off, I think, with 15, but that's another thing you can unlock. You can unlock more, the ability to have more snapshots. I think in the 20s. I forget where I wound up, but it's it's one of those that you use a lot in the beginning, and then you use less frequently as the game goes on, as you start. But as you get more powers, now it's like, oh, I know where to go, and have some fun. What was that again? So it's not just a mark. Seeing that screenshot, it's like, oh, that's right, I remember that area. I know what I have to do there. That that is something I'd love to see in all Metroidvanias, because Metroidvanias is all about backtracking and where can
Mhm.
I go now that I have this new ability. And yeah, I thought that was implemented extremely well.
Yeah, I think so too. I do like, yeah. I mean, at this point, I like the different characters. I like the storyline grabbed me. Like I said in the beginning, I wasn't really sure, but all of a sudden I was sucked in. I want to know what's going on, and they didn't have to do it through constant normal storytelling. They've done it through conversations that you have with these different people you find in Mount Koff, and figuring out, okay, what happened to you, and why are you this different than this other person? Like, and then there's some people that seem like they're trapped in time, and others have progressed so super fast, and you're like, what is going on? So there's this desire to, like, even in the middle of great action, great platforming, great Metroidvania, great puzzles, I do want to know where this story is going. And I want to see how it progresses. And I know I'm sure there's some twists and everything like that, but I want to get to that. And I think they've done a really good job of just nailing all of that. So yeah, there's very little negatives that I found in this game so far.
Yeah, no, the story is great. I like the way they tell it. Usually you get a cutscene like at a boss room and stuff like that, and a cutscene after the boss, which is customary. Sometimes you'll get like just walking through, and suddenly there'll be a cutscene that just a quick thing for story purposes, but it is intriguing and it's well done. and all the way to the end. And I will say the bosses in this game are very good. Even playing on the easiest difficulty, they were easier, but I can totally see Ramp Up the Challenge them being very, very difficult, and a lot of it pattern learning. And I can say even on the easiest difficulty, the final boss, it took me 4 times to beat, as I learned the pattern, has multiple phases, and it really delivered the challenge. And what's funny is after the first 3 times I left to change my amulet setup. And I put something, I'm like, oh, this is going to help me. And then I wound up beating on the 4th time, and I never wound up using the ability of that extra amulet that I did, because I had figured out the pattern, and I learned how to dodge things. And I was like, oh, okay, and that was on the easiest. So on the harder difficulty, I mean, I would say you're definitely in for a real challenge on all the bosses, but especially the final one. And it's really cool. The build up is cool. They give you a lot of points, like, oh, this is it. It tells you. I love when games tell you, like, this is it. This is the no turning back point of the game. So many games don't, and then you're like, oh, I still wanted to go see that. And with the icons on, really helps point you where you need to go. But if you did explorer mode without that, it'll be a fun jaunt of just wandering around aimlessly. Even with the explorer, like, it'll point a point way off the map over here, and I'm like, how do I even get there? And I was like, figuring that out was so much fun. And this map is big. Like, this is a big Metroidvania. There's a lot of different areas, and what's nice is when you look at the map, each area, it'll tell you in the top left corner your collectibles, how many of this you've gotten. You've gotten 5 of 5. You've gotten 2 of 3. It'll tell you what you're missing. It won't tell you where in that particular zone you're missing it, but it will tell you, so oh, I need another coin. Oh, there's a coin in this section I still haven't found. Okay, or I need a treasure chest. Oh, there's a treasure chest over here. So that does help. I wish that there was a way to pay or figure out a way what you're missing, like show you where it is, or at least in the general area, because when you're only missing one thing in an entire zone and it's the end of the game, and it's like, do I really want to scour this entire zone for this, just for 100% completionist, or completion's sake? I kind of like that at the end of the game, even after you beat the game, like something to unlock. Because this game does something interesting. When you do beat the game, it actually, usually when you beat a game, it allows you to reload the save from right before the final boss. This lets you reload the save after the final boss, so that your main objective actually is done. You can't just go back and fight the final boss. But I was like, all right, well, are they going to do something on my map now? Are they going to show me where I'm missing? And there's nothing. Like, I think you get a skin. Like, it's nothing. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of would like that, because to me, there was less of an incentive, especially at that point. Well, maybe I'll go get a heart piece I'm missing. Like, what's the point of it at that? If this is the only game you're playing and you want to up the difficulty and bring in, I don't know if you can bring it into New Game Plus or whatnot, then sure. But at that point, it was like, it would have been nice. I would have gone for that heart piece if it told me the general area and let me figure it out.
Sure.
But when the general area is the entire section, I'm like, no, nope.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, especially when there's not really an incentive except for just to say that you 100% of the game.
You did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I ended at like 90% or something like
Okay.
that. I think it says in your save file. But
Yep.
that's everything, of course.
Yeah.
So that
is one thing I wish, little nitpicky thing, but the only place you can see how much progression you've made is in the save file when you're starting that game file. Like, you can't, like, while you're playing the game, you don't get access to that. I'm like, I would have liked to have seen that progression, like, within the game.
There's times where I've saved and then I quit back to the main menu just to see that.
Just to see, yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. You're like, I played for so long. How much progression did I make during that time? I can't just easily see that. You have to back out of the whole game and go back to your save file. Yeah. So, yeah, I think at this point, I mean, it's like tiny little nitpicky things that some of those could be even upgraded or updated in a patch. Like, that's a quality of life kind of thing that they could easily toss in. So, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious at this point that we enjoy this game and recommend it. Barry, any final thoughts that we haven't talked about yet?
If you've never played a Prince of Persia game, this is one you can absolutely start with. It's not connected to the other stories. If you played the other ones, this is just a bonus. But if you like Metroidvania games and you enjoy that genre, you enjoy platforming, you enjoy even the tougher platforming stuff like the higher end Mario or something like Super Meat Boy, like there's some real challenge here, and I think you'll find a lot to love. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I highly recommend this game. This game exceeded every expectation I had, and I enjoyed my time. 99% of the time I was playing it. The little glitch thing frustrated me and losing 40 something minutes worth of progress definitely didn't help. But there was a lot here, and I wound up pulling off feats that I was like, okay, I'm glad that at 41 I still got it. Like I'm still able to do this. My wife was watching, just be like, I would not be able to do that. What you just pulled off, like that was crazy. I'm like, yeah, the game teaches you enough that
Yeah.
by the time you get to those segments, you figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that plays into, we talked about this before we started recording as well, but the game does a really good job of just gradual progression in terms of adding all these extra things in there. And I was looking at Ubisoft sends us some information about the game, and I was just looking through that guide, and I was like, wow, I forgot how much there is in this game because they just gradually introduce it to you as you play, and it's not super overwhelming as soon as you start the game. You really they progress it really well. Huge props to Ubisoft Montpellier for your great work on this game. There are a ton of people, I mean, working on this game. I told Barry I looked at the credits and they just kept going on and on and on and on and on, scrolling on my screen. So many people that worked on this game, and man, huge props to all that team because they did a fantastic job of really creating a great experience. I believe the average playthrough is between 20 to 25 hours for the main game. So that's a solid experience for what you're getting there. And of course, you could spend hours and hours exploring and going down all these different paths as well. But 25 hours for your main game is pretty great as well. Barry, we normally don't give scores, but I feel like it's safe to say we're probably in the 9 to 9.5 range if we were at it, say out of 10 for this game. We're loving it that much.
Yeah, I would put it somewhere there, 9.25 or something like that. It does everything it sets out to do. In my opinion, exceeds in many ways, and I walked away with a smile on my face. I enjoyed it, so
Cool.
thank you Ubisoft for the code for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the great game. Thanks for the codes for us to be able to play it early and give you guys some official impressions and reviews and discussion here on NintendoFuse. And speaking of which, a reminder, if you've not subscribed to us on NintendoFuse here on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and share it with other Nintendo fans that you know. And also check out our blog at nintendofuse.com. We have a regular podcast to be starting back up soon as well. So make sure you subscribe to that here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast apps. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Have a good one.